Hi everyone, this is Numair Liaqat. I am the CEO of Offer Letter Educational Services, also a former Oxford graduate. With me, I have Ahmad Nawaz, who is the founder of Oxford Summer Program, also a Pakistani and an Oxford graduate with an incredible story. We'll come to that later. We also have with me Talal who's already very popular for the SAT teaching via Tutoria and is a UPenn and LUMS graduate. All right, so I'll cut the chase and get down to our agenda for today, which is this Oxford Summer Program coming up in July 2026. This program is 2 weeks long. It's happening at the University of Oxford. Students will be placed at Oxford colleges. They will live there. They'll get academic tutoring from Oxford graduates and DPhil and other faculty members. There will be work done on their debating skills. They'll earn a recommendation letter as well. And the program will include guidance regarding Oxford admissions. So that's a generic overview, but we'll definitely dive deeper into it. So Ahmed, you have an incredible story coming out of Pakistan, getting to Oxford, and then also becoming the president of Oxford Union after Benazir Bhutto. So that's an incredible journey. Your journey is an example for so many around you, especially in Pakistan, who are now eyeing these colleges and want to emulate it. So regarding the Oxford Summer Program, can you tell me the academic side of it? It says that, the teaching style replicates the actual teaching of Oxford University. How accurate is that? And what benefit does the 2:1 tutorial style entail, and how will the students benefit from it?
Yeah, firstly, Numair and Talal, thank you for having me on this podcast. It's a pleasure to speak to both of you guys as well. And it's a pleasure to work with you and bringing more Pakistanis into Oxford and getting them admitted into Oxford, hopefully. The Oxford Summer Program that we have developed is something very unique and something special that we have built. So I've worked in education for over a decade, and I studied at Oxford as well. But we saw continuously that there were summer programs around the world that were offering this idea that they could somehow help with the students. But you often find that their students come to another country usually for just classes of 30, 40 people and spend a few days walking around the city and kind of go back. We wanted to create something special, something truly Oxford, something that will really prepare the students to have the best chance in getting into Oxford. So a group of us Oxford academics, professors and DPhil's researchers, we all came together to create this organization to offer an academically intense, but also a program that is very holistic, that prepares students in the best way possible for these programs. So as part of this, we wanted to stay true to how Oxford does its own teaching, which is through the tutorial methodology. Numair, you studied at Oxford for your master's as well. A lot of this, you would know that a lot of the teaching in Oxford happens in the tutorial systems, which is a one-on-one or a one-on-two with your professors or with the researcher who's your tutor. And in those sessions, how it works is that the tutors or the professors, etc., would sit you down. They will discuss what your task was or what the task you've been given was. And then they will critically challenge you and challenge you to critically think about how to engage with those ideas on a more deeper level and how to think in a way that is expected in Oxford. So you would know that in these tutorials, we weren't just taught for like an hour as to how to study this subject or what this means, etc. That's for students to also figure out themselves for a little bit. But a lot of it is about teaching students a way to think, the Oxford way of thinking, which is to think critically and to challenge ideas. So that is what the core of our Oxford tutorial system is. And we've introduced this into our summer program so that students who come from all over the world get that unique teaching style where they can actually learn different ways of thinking rather than just new material.
Wonderful. I have a follow-up question, Ahmed. So who exactly teaches these core tutorials? Current DPhil candidates, postdocs, or former Oxford faculty? And how do you make sure that tutors are matched to a student's academic interests? That is extremely
Yes.
important.
Yes, so excellent question. So the tutors that we have, so essentially all these tutorials will be conducted by professors or tutors, researchers at Oxford. So postdoctoral researchers, we have some of them. We have DPhil candidates who will be teaching. And these are the very same people, by the way, that also teach undergraduate students at Oxford.
Okay.
So usually the undergraduate students will be taught by a mix of professors or DPhil candidates or other researchers or fellows. So we have approached those people to come and teach these kids in this tutorial way so that they know how to engage them in a truly Oxford way. And we have chosen them very meticulously. So we have a very rigorous process for choosing our tutors that will be engaging with our students. We have made sure that they have an exceptional academic record, but also that they have teaching experience so that they can teach. A lot of the times, if you choose someone to teach a subject, they could be really good at it, but not be able to help the students achieve what the students want.
Exactly.
So that has been a great focus for us to really be very strict and very rigorous with our teachers that we have selected for this program.
Wonderful.
So Ahmed, by the end of these 2 weeks at the University of Oxford, what tangible academic outputs or takeaways would the students have in terms of essays, research papers, tutor evaluations, recommendation letters, and how can they be documented, and what can students take away?
Yes, so our program is quite academically intensive compared to others as well, in that we have made sure that one, with the tutorial system, that there is more personalized approach, but two, we have introduced elements that are done by current students at the university or things that help academically in getting them into Oxford. So for students, they will choose a major subject and a minor subject when they're joining the program. In their major subject, they will be working on a research paper throughout the course of 2 weeks, which they will be assisted on by current students at Oxford who know how to approach these essays and how to do well at these written works. So they do this research paper, which will, one, give them the skills to write better and how to write an academic essay. But second, also, that research paper is something that they could talk about. I mean, we know that at person statement stage, when they're applying to universities, not many students have great depth of academic work that they've worked on. So this gives them that opportunity. Aside from that, our tutors also help them really figure out what subjects they're interested in and how those subjects are approached. I think that is a big disparity that people don't quite understand. Let's say I want to study history at Oxford, and my understanding of history is entirely based on what I've studied in Pakistan, let's say. And in Oxford, there is a particular way that they look at the subject. It's very traditional university, and all of these great universities have a very particular academic approach to it. We show the students of what approach is taken to those students so that they're ready when they come to the stages of application or interviews to express like from what angle and from what aspect they want to study that subject and get into it. So essentially giving them the academic clarity as to what subject that they want to study and how they should approach it better. Alongside this, a lot of these sessions that we have organized in the foundational skills should also complement their academics. So critical thinking is one of the most important skills at Oxford that they seek. And in Pakistan, that in the education system, that is neglected to quite a large extent. So for students from there, if they're getting 4 or 5 A stars at A levels, that might not be sufficient because tutors say they look for a way, people who can think in a particular way rather than people who know a lot more. So in that sense, we will equip them academically in their subjects that they choose as well, but also give them these tools that can help them with going forward and pursuing their subject at top universities.
This definitely doesn't look like a typical summer program, which is very impressive. Okay, next question. I looked at the brochure and you've talked about a debating competition as well. How much formal training do students receive beforehand, and are they coached in British parliamentary style with individual feedback or not?
Yes, so exactly that. So the debating competition that we have as part of this course is part of our teaching philosophy for the foundational skills that we offer. And the debating competition is important for many reasons because it really employs the skills that we teach them in the LEAD model. So the foundational skills. So they will learn about critical thinking, about leadership, about debating, and about communication and teamwork. And all of these skills will be employed throughout the debating competition. It's a way to demonstrate these skills for students. So the debating competition, the way it will work is that I'm a former president of the Oxford Union. I've also debated at national level in the UK here. And also we will have other experts in debating. We will do some workshops with the students first. All our workshops will be interactive. So it won't just be a lecture at the students as to, for 1 hour, just talking to them about how this works, etc. It will be to teach them first the foundations, the fundamentals of debating, how to form an argument, a strong argument, how to articulate it, and how to structure your argument or your speech. Then once that is done, we do practices with them. We put them in smaller groups to engage in certain activities or games that can strengthen their argument making and argument development. Then once we have done that over the course of 2 weeks, the program will culminate in a formal competition day for the debates, which will be held at the Oxford Union. So the Oxford Union, as you would be aware, is one of the most prestigious debating societies in the world. And that's where they will be getting the chance to engage in a debating competition where we will put them into teams and they will compete throughout the day with different teams on debates that we will have surprised them with, so that they can come up critically thinking about the debates and come up with arguments on their feet. So these are the sort of things that will really help these students, not just with their CV, etc., but with the skills that they will really develop and the sort of people that they can become. The debating competition will be we will be giving feedback at every stage to all the students and telling them how they can improve for the next stage as well, so that they can go down the competition improving at every stage. And at the end of it, the winner will get a prize as well from us, and we will give them an even more special recommendation of letter.
I definitely want to get enrolled now.
Yeah.
That will really help build students' extracurricular profile for their university admissions. But in addition to this extracurricular profile, can the students use this in their personal statements, in their UCAS personal statement, interview, in their written work? And will the admission committee look favorably if students have that in their profile?
Absolutely. I think from personal experience as well. So we have people in our organization who studied at Oxford or are teaching at Oxford, who also in the past attended summer schools. And a lot of people I know at Oxford did attend. The way in our school, summer school, helps students in their personal statement building is that the skills that we teach them, firstly, that will help them in drafting and writing a very strong personal statement, but also the things that they do, like a written work. For example, a research paper. The research paper is something that, rarely any students would have that they could mention, especially supervised by an Oxford tutor. And that is the sort of thing when they put on their personal statement and an Oxford professor or a tutor is reading that personal statement, what they see is that there is a keen interest from this person in academics, and they have already taken the initiative to do research paper, which is for most of the part what they do in Oxford. As you would be aware, on Numair as well, for weekly work, we would also just get this research papers, which we would work on, and then we would submit it and then have the tutorials. So that is the aim here as well. Other than that, with personal statement, they will also get, they can mention that they attended the Oxford summer course, which shows a keen interest from them and shows to the Oxford people that these guys have come and seen and learned from these tutors. So they know what Oxford is about. A lot of students don't usually when they come to Oxford. And finally, the letters of recommendation, the certificate, etc., all of these, the competition stuff, talking about these in the personal statement would really help any student that is applying to Oxford. I mean, frankly, even like when I was applying, a lot of people I remember speaking to in my school wouldn't have such great experiences that they could mention. At best, they would talk about student societies at school. But this is something far greater than that. This is a much bigger experience than anything that students would have done that are applying to Oxford. So in that sense, it's highly valuable for a personal statement, I believe.
Ahmad, you've also mentioned letters of recommendation. So what distinguishes your letters of recommendation from generic summer school certificates? Do they include comparative ranking or tutor commentary or evidence of, let's say, intellectual maturity, anything like that?
So essentially, the letter of recommendation is separate to the certificate. Certificate is certificate of completion of the course and what grade they graduate with from our summer program. But the recommendation letter, if the students are applying, let's say in that year to a particular university, they can request their tutor, the person that taught them the subject, to give a letter of recommendation. And that will come. The reason it is special is that our tutors are some of the best in Oxford, and also their current students or academics or tutors who are already teaching. So to have a letter of recommendation from one of these people and send that with your application to Oxford or other universities is, I think, a very strong thing. Having a DPhil researcher giving you comments about your academic strengths in the subject and how you have developed and shown the ability to be an Oxford student or to be a student at top universities in general. And I think that is the sort of thing that they can provide based on how the student performs and shows interest in their subject. So the letter of recommendations would be very strong in that sense. And it's special for us because our tutors are world-class anywhere else.
Very nice. Ahmed, how selective is the Oxford summer program? And what academic profile do typically students have who attend this program in terms of their grades and in terms of the curriculum they have done and the personal statements that they write to get in? And also, can you talk about what nationalities they have come from in the past?
Yes, so just to start off with the nationalities bit, our program is extremely international. That's one of the things that we pride ourselves in. We will have students from a lot of countries from around the world, from the US to all the way to China, to Japan, and to Australia even, and in between everything, of course. So we will have students from every part of the world joining us at this program, and being international is very important. You know, for these students to come and meet with people from different countries around the world, it really opens their mind and gives them that opportunity to really see how other people in other parts of the world think and make friends with these people, really, I think, which is also a really exciting part of this program. In terms of the other question that you asked in relation to the selection process, we have a criteria that we want people who are interested and show potential, because we don't want to necessarily teach people who are not interested in learning and trying to be better. We're interested in students who want to become better and who want to go to top universities, so we can genuinely help them and try to get them to that point. So the requirements are that they have to essentially just answer two questions that we have put on our application process. And from that, we will see their motivation, that they're interested, and we can then offer them a place at the program. But we're selective for the reason that we want a higher quality of cohort so that students can engage with themselves and learn from each other as well.
Great.
Okay, great. I'm going to ask a difficult question, Ahmed. So many programs operate in Oxford, but to be very honest, they lack that academic depth.
Yeah.
So what are 3 concrete ways or traits that your program is offering which make it stronger than the others?
Yes. So interestingly that you ask 3 ways, because our program has at its core a tripartite structure, and the 3 parts of this structure really complement each other to create a very holistic experience for students. So it's not just about, an experience in Oxford or just about studying one particular subject. It's about creating a course that is holistic, that touches all important things that is required of a person that is capable of studying at top universities or of succeeding in life. So our program's tripartite structure is split into the first part being the academics, so the subjects they want to study. They will study the subjects in depth. The major, they will write research paper, which they don't really do at any other summer courses, I believe. And within those subjects, having the tutorial system, which is also very rare, and no one really does it in the Oxford summer courses scene. But I think having that depth, as you mentioned earlier as well, is very important, and it's the first part of our tripartite structure. The second part then is the foundational skills, as I mentioned earlier, that we focus on, which includes critical thinking, debating, communication, and teamwork. So those are the most important skills that students need to, not just for their applications, but to succeed in life, whether it's job interviews, whether it's anything really, that you will realize that communication skills, articulation of your thoughts, and also critical thinking are some of the most important things you will need everywhere. And the third thing is that we focus very particularly on Oxbridge application support. And what we have done is we have academics working with us who are actively involved or have been actively involved in the admission processes for Oxford. So that is why we have a very strong offering on the third limb as well. If the students get training from those people and guidance from those people particularly, they will hopefully be in the best position to get in. So what really then sets us apart is, the attention to detail that we have given to every part of this course. We're preparing students to compete with the best of the world, essentially, and to prepare them for life in general. So I think this course is more than just a 2 weeks fun program in Oxford. It is something that we have meticulously designed to prime students to be able to get into top universities. And we take serious pride in the fact that we can get in students into top universities. So that is why we have created such a strong program for students.
And when compared to other top programs, for example, the one at Harvard, how does Oxford Summer Program stand out both for high school students aged 13 to 18 and then for the second cohort of 18 to 25, which mainly include college students?
Yes, I think essentially one of the biggest thing, firstly, is the people in the program. The people that will be teaching you, I think, is a really important thing at any program that people choose. For us, the people the people who will be teaching will be tutors, DPhil researchers, academics, and professors. So learning from them directly, firstly, is a great thing that will help students. But secondly, Oxford is, if not the oldest, the second oldest university in the world. It was, in fact, it's a story that people from Cambridge went to the US and created Harvard in 15th, 16th century, I presume. And so, Oxford is the global hub for academia in that sense. Its roots go back 1,000 years. And the academic tradition that Oxford has developed is quite comprehensive and quite in-depth for every subject. So we have been following that footstep to try to create something that prepares students for the Oxford experience, for the experience that has been going for 1,000 years. And essentially, our program has, I think it's different universities as well. So it's more of an Oxford element, Oxford and Cambridge element. The Harvard one would be more focused on the way they teach. I'm not sure if they are very big on the tutorial methodology, but that is more unique to Oxford and Cambridge. And I think that is something that we champion, which is so important for students.
Ahmad, I'm sure you will also understand and agree that not everyone is going to end up at Oxford. It's highly, highly competitive.
Yes.
So for students who don't end up going to Oxford, how does this program change their trajectory in the next 2-3 years? Or let's say, will this program help them if they're applying to US or other UK universities?
Absolutely. I think this is, as I said earlier, this is a very holistic program in that it doesn't just give you content for your personal statement, but it helps develop those skills that are essential to be at top universities. Harvard, for example, Stanford, Cambridge, all of these universities have a particular idea of what sort of students that they want. And those students always have these essential skills of critical thinking that I mentioned, and I keep mentioning again because of its importance here. And debating, for example, articulation of thoughts, interview at any university, whether it's Harvard or Oxford. The professors will be looking at whether you can articulate your thoughts and your arguments well, whether you can come up with arguments on the spot and think critically about them and challenge and be challenged. And those are the sort of skills that can be transferable to all the top universities. So although it is, and of course, Oxford has a great name around the world, and to learn from the academics from the university is something that would be appreciated all around the world at top universities. So this program will definitely help, I think, them generally for universities anywhere in the world that they want to apply to. Because the research paper, for example, if they did a research paper in economics with us, then they could talk about that in their application to Harvard, their application to Stanford, wherever they want to apply. So I think there are many things in this program, or most things, in fact, that will help them for any university in the world, and not just Oxford and Cambridge.
Ahmed, I remember you telling me that this program provides the best value for money, and it's cheaper, significantly cheaper than other prestigious programs, for example, the Harvard one. But still, 5,500 to 6,000 pounds is like a significant amount of money. So for a skeptical parent, what would you say what measurable return their child could have that they cannot replicate elsewhere?
Yes. So firstly, on the fee side in general, our idea was to not build a business out of this. A lot of the summer programs tend to be businesses run by private equity firms, etc. For us, it's more personal. For us, we started this program with the intention of taking Oxford to the world, to the Oxford sort of values, the way that people from Oxford think. So for us, the priority has been to create a program that is not focused on making profits, so it's not operated just as a business, but it's truly a value delivering program. That's why we don't charge crazy prices of 7,000, 8,000, or even 10,000, 12,000 for these programs like others do, because we believe in giving access to a larger group of people from around the world to learn these things. In terms of convincing a skeptical parent, I think this experience that we provide is, I think, something that can rarely be bought with money. Having access, being able to send your child to live in Oxford for 2 weeks at the university campus, to be taught by the professors and academics and teachers who teach Oxford students generally, and to engage with students from all around the world is something that is, I think, unmatched. I think that is truly a fantastic opportunity for them. And the whole experience is an experience of a lifetime. So it's always worth it, I believe, regardless of whatever the price tag may be. But for us, I think it's more about, as I said, we take particular pride in how we design this program and how we are passionate about delivering value to people and to get more people into Oxford and Cambridge. That's our aim. I mean, our aim is really not to run this as exclusively a business, but more as a way to bridge people into Oxford from different parts of the world.
Thank you so much, Ahmed. This is an excellent opportunity for high school students in Pakistan and internationally, and also for college students aged 18 to 25. They can take benefit from it. They can learn academically. They can improve their debating skills. And of course, it's a super.
And I can add on it on the 18 to 25. So the ages are split into two groups, which would be the 13 to 18 for the juniors. And for the seniors would be 18 to 25, which would be more of the university students who are interested in either applying to master's programs at top universities or want to help develop a particular research paper that we can then help them, assist them, put them with a supervisor who can then help them develop that paper. So for these two groups, we have slightly different focuses in terms of, and we tailor them to the needs of the students that join us. So if there are college students that are interested in this, we will have a slightly altered program, slightly different program for them to tailor it more to their needs compared to the undergraduate admissions.
Okay, great.
Honestly, Ahmed,
Guys,
just
so much. Talal, you want to add something?
Yeah, I was just saying that very honestly, I've never been a strong proponent of summer programs. I never liked summer programs, but this definitely seems like a game changer. And we wish you the very best of luck.
All right. Seb, so let's get down to business. Today's agenda is to figure out how to get into Oxford. So many people from Pakistan are interested in getting into Oxford and Cambridge. It's very tough. Students get nervous and they get frightened and they don't know how it works, especially when it comes to timelines. Many of the time students feel that they have now gotten late. So can you talk about your experience and also in general how students should prepare themselves? When should they start? And what should be the first step? When is the absolute last for a serious candidate to then begin their application?
Yeah, so this is a good question, obviously an important one, because you don't want the reason you get rejected from Oxford or don't get in to be a matter of timing. The key thing is that the end application date is in usually October. This means that the summer before is the key period. However, you really want to be thinking about Oxford prior to that, because then you can start going beyond your curriculum and exploring within your subject area which are the things that really pique your interest and make you excited to be studying that subject. Because, and this is a key thing, Oxford tutors will know if you are lying to them about your interest. So the important thing is find your interest, find what it is that really gets you going, and over the summer prior to your application, really build on that in all sorts of different ways. And we can get onto that later in our discussion. But that's sort of the timeline. But the summer before, right from the start of the summer, is the key period.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that as well. I think that's very true, that the summer before is actually the time when you can add last minute things to your personal statement. But the years in run up to that as well. So for me, for example, the journey starts from around GCSE days. So when you're doing your GCSEs or metric exam, because you need to do well at those exams, and throughout your time, you need to develop your profile and develop your personal statement over the years. You can't read 10 books that you mentioned in your CV and the personal statement in the summer before or just the time before. So that's why it's good to start as early as possible and start developing these skills that we teach at Oxford Global Courses from a very early stage, so that they can be prepared by the time they come to the last year summer, they're ready.
This is definitely.
Sorry, Talal, I'll just introduce Ahmed. All those who are watching our podcast for the first time, that voice was Ahmed Nawaz, who's also an Oxford graduate and was the former president of Oxford Union, which is a prestigious debating club at Oxford. And he's the head of Oxford Summer Program as well. With me, I have Sebastian, who is an academic at Oxford, and he did his undergrad from Oxford in classics, then went on to do his master's from Cambridge in ancient history, and is now doing his DPhil in ancient history from Oxford. So he's a classic Oxford-Cambridge mix, and he will be teaching students in the undergrad as well. So anybody who's interested in undergrad studies, Seb is the guy.
I completely agree with both of you, and this is exactly what we tell our students as well, that you need to start as early as possible. Okay, I will straight away dive into the most important question, which I receive literally on a daily basis. And that is, what matters the most? Grades, super-curriculars, admission tests, or interviews? Which ones usually make or break the Oxford letter?
So the bad news is that any one of those things can break it.
Okay.
The key thing is, I don't want to say, there's no hard and fast formula. You know, it's 20% this, it's 40% that, it's X% this. The key thing is having a strong, coherent combination. And what do I mean by coherent? You don't want your application to look like you are interested in everything, because that's not possible. You know, you really want to build in the tutor's minds a picture of someone, a picture of an individual, a coherent individual who loves their subject. Now, that is sort of a lot easier said than done. And this is why the application process is so multifaceted. You have your interviews, you have your personal statement, and you have your admissions tests, whatever it is, essay submissions. What you want is to build a sort of coherent picture of someone they want to accept. So the headline is, no one of those things, no individual part of that is going to make the application. But each individual part could break the application. And the additional point is I would think about how the different parts should link together. And that you can only really work out by a long run up prior to the summer before application, as Ahmad and Nawaz says.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Seb. When it comes to extracurriculars or super-curriculars, what exactly or actually matters? Students think that by doing internships or collecting certificates, they can build their profile, but what specific types of super-curricular activities will help them get in?
Yeah, this is a very, very common question that gets asked. So the first thing to mention is that it is quite different. You will see different advice for Ivy Leagues in America as you will for Oxbridge in the UK. For Oxbridge, they really don't care about, for instance, whether you were the captain of your high school football team.
Yeah.
Or things like this. However, that doesn't mean that supercurriculars are pointless, far from it. But what you need to be doing when you're choosing your supercurriculars or developing them is think about how it relates to your subject. An internship can be very, very useful if it is in an area adjacent to your subject, whatever that might be, and shows an interest in the general subject that you're applying for. On a basic level, the word supercurricular is important because it implies going beyond your curriculum. And that is exactly what an Oxbridge tutor wants to see. They really want to tutor someone. And remember, they will be tutoring you, if you're applying, for the next 3 years of their lives. They want to see someone that is really interested in what they have dedicated their lives to doing, whatever that subject might be, maths, history, philosophy, whatever. So you want to be developing your interest beyond the curriculum. Now, how do you prove that? Because anyone can say, I'm really interested in stuff beyond the curriculum.
Yeah.
Some concrete ways might be writing your own research paper on a subject of your choice. Reading academic articles and books, and make sure you're reading the right ones and thinking about them in the right ways. Now, all of this stuff is very difficult, but it is important. And the only, a key way, an important way to find out how to organize your time and your efforts is to speak to someone who's been through the process before.
Okay, wonderful. Let's talk a little about admission tests. So for tests like TSA, LNAT, MAT, or PAT, what score range usually keeps a candidate competitive? And when exactly should they start studying properly for these tests?
Yeah, so, I remember when I was applying, and Ahmed may say the same, the test is one of the most intimidating aspects. But what the important thing is not entirely like that. It's partially like that, but it's not entirely like that. So in terms of specific scores, it is highly subject dependent. There's no rule that is cross-subject, that is applicable cross subjects.
I can also add to that as well.
Yeah.
And so I was going to add to this as well that the tests are, as Seb said, quite an intimidating part when you're a student, because tests feel like a very final thing, and that, if you don't do well at it, then that's kind of
Exactly.
done. But that's not really the case from personal experiences as well, in that the test, you don't really know how the test went, etc. You just need to try your hardest. You just need to be prepared for the skills that they seek in those tests, is what is the most important thing for those tests. So if it's a philosophy test, for example, they're really looking at your analytical abilities and how critically can you think and challenge the ideas presented to you. And so in that sense, doing well at that is not just about writing a good essay, but it's about showing that you think about these things in a particular way. And so that's why tests are an important indicator, but they're not essentially the be all and end all, because you can perform, let's say, slightly mediocre, but there are other elements, as Seb said earlier, that you have to combine this with to perform better. Your personal statement, if it's strong, and then you have a sort of slightly above mediocre test, let's say, mediocre in the context of Oxford applicants, of course, then obviously you will have a slightly stronger chance in general. But I think, as Seb said, it's a very holistic thing. Oxford would not look at one element of it and say that this is the element where we will definitely chop this person off. People, I believe from speaking to people as well, they get a benefit of doubt at times, even if they, let's say, don't perform in one of the aspects, but have shown the promise in thinking in a particular way. So that's why we look at TSAs and tests as part of this holistic picture that we're developing with the kids at our summer program.
Very nice.
To add one final point on that, people shouldn't think of these tests as some sort of like an IQ test or whatever that is getting at some innate talent. These are things that can be practiced for, and with practice, you can master them. Now, it's not easy to do that, but with enough time and enough dedication, you can really learn how to do extremely well in these things. And the worst thing to do would be turn up on the day, think, oh, I'm clever, I have mastered my syllabus, my curriculum, I'm going to be able to do well in the test. That is not going to be the case. You really want to practice these, and you can get a lot better.
Okay. So following the tests, students get invited for their interviews at Oxford, and that is also very tricky. What do students misjudge about their interviews, and what distinguishes candidates who adapt well during the interview?
Yeah, so the other intimidating part of the Oxford application process is the interviews. For some people, this will be even more intimidating than the tests. And there are a lot of pitfalls. One key pitfall is thinking that this is an exercise in showing off your knowledge. That is not what an interview is about. You do not want to go in there and start listing off everything you know about a certain subject. You know, they're looking for sort of two things, I suppose, two main things throughout the interview process. One of them is a real love, a desire, a passion, as it were, for the subject. And an interview is a really good way to show that, because it's sort of face-to-face, like we are now, and you can demonstrate your passion for the subject much easier, I think, in some ways than you can on paper. So that's the first thing. The second thing is general intellectual curiosity, agility, and a desire to learn. They're not expecting you at the interview stage to be a fully rounded expert on the subject. That's what Oxford's for. They want you to be a fully rounded expert at the end of Oxford. At the beginning, they want you to be someone who wants to reach that stage. And so I think the important thing for aspiring students to think about is, how do I show an Oxford tutor that I'm really interested in their subject? Because a reminder, they're really interested in that subject too. That's their life. They've dedicated their life to it. And the other thing is, how do I develop my broader critical thinking abilities, my ability to communicate my thoughts, and a general intellectual sort of agility that I can demonstrate in the interview.
Okay, wonderful. You've already talked a little about this, but I want you to talk some more on this point. Beyond preparation, what way of thinking does Oxford look for that most high achieving students usually lack?
This is really important, because I've seen numerous students do very, very well at school and then falter at Oxford. Now, why is that? It might be for various reasons, but one of the key reasons is that they're unable to self-motivate their studies. Oxford is, and Cambridge, they're set up in a very unique way, the teaching system, and it's famed around the world. This is like the Oxford and Cambridge tutorial systems are very well known for the results they deliver, but it's not easy to master it. It involves very close discussion and intellectual battling with a tutor, and then the rest of the time you're doing self-motivated research. So the key, some really key skills are required for this, to do well at this. I think a critical mind, an ability to think critically about difficult academic texts is key, because that's where a lot of your learning is going to come at Oxford. So being able to deal with academic texts is key. By thinking about how to structure your research, because you're not going to be able to read every single thing that's ever been published on a subject. So being able to think carefully about what the best sort of path to go down in terms of research is another key aspect. And the communication skills in the tutorial, being able to communicate your ideas, I think is really important. And the third thing I will mention, there are other things, but the third important thing is essay writing. You've got to be able to structure a good essay. And this will take some people a couple of years. It took me a couple of years. Some people will graduate from Oxford and never have fully learnt this. And those are the people that don't do well. You've got to be able to write a clear essay. And that's for essay subjects. For maths and things, it's slightly different, but a lot of Oxford is essay-based. And for those, essay writing skills are important.
Building on this essay point, especially the personal statements, you've mentioned that it's extremely critical. What are some of the common mistakes that students make while writing the personal statement?
Yeah, this is a good question. So, well, I will reiterate one point. You don't want to be talking about how you scored the winning goal in your in the cup final of your football tournament, your school football tournament. That is something that if you're going to write it, leave it to the last sort of couple of sentences. Mention it briefly. You really want to be talking about things that prove that you have gone beyond your curriculum and your subject. And that could be loads of things. But the key thing is, don't just say, I'm really interested in X, Y, and Z. You want to have concrete things that prove to the tutors that you are what you say you are. Because everyone will write, I'm really interested in, I've gone beyond the curriculum in this part. You want to be able to show that you have read really carefully an academic article and develop your own thoughts about that. You want to show that you've written a research paper or delivered a presentation on a subject that isn't going to be what anyone else has or many other people have taken the time to consider, because taking those interesting things and developing them is exactly what you're going to be doing at Oxford. So I think the personal statement is about putting on paper the proof of what you're going to be saying throughout the application process, which is, I'm really eager to learn more at one of the best educational institutions in the world about this subject. And I want to learn it from you, the tutors. So I think that would be the general structure of any personal statement. And within your subjects, it will differ.
Definitely very useful insight. Okay, academically and emotionally, what surprised you the most about studying at Oxford that applicants almost never anticipate?
I think the thing that shocked me the most was I arrived and then a day later, I got asked to write a 2,000-word essay for the following Monday. So maybe sort of four days later. And, you know, as a sort of young boy then, this is quite an intimidating thing. So be prepared for a lot of work, a lot of hard work in the library. The only thing that makes this manageable is a real love for what you're reading. That's the only thing that sort of stops you from sort of giving up or going insane. And that's why the Oxford tutors are really keen on identifying that in their applicants. So be prepared to be reading a lot of stuff and doing a lot of thinking. Be prepared to really enjoy it. This is the thing that I then learned, is that it is some of the most enjoyable time of your life, not just for the social aspects or the time outside the library, but within the library, within your books. It is a unique experience to be at the cutting edge of academic research and then be able to discuss it with some of the titans in your field, one-to-one or two-to-one every week. That is a unique experience that I think you should really relish, look forward to. And so that's another point, is really prepare for those meetings with your professors. Really don't go in without having done the research, because you're going to get a lot more out of it if you if you come with ideas.
Sorry to cut you.
Yeah, and I can add to this as well, because I think it's an interesting question in that what shocked you or what caught you by surprise when you started studying at Oxford, because it's you think, and I think this is a general perception, that you to be at the best places, you just need to be quite knowledgeable in the subject that you study or know a lot about a lot of things. It's kind of the idea of a smart person, I think. But in Oxford, when we arrived, the first week, I got an essay task, just like Seb mentioned, and it wasn't, kind of tell us about the benefits of this or tell us about this topic, XYZ, or explain. It was a more abstract question. We were given readings of multiple books. And the question was, for philosophy, could a dog know that it has a bone in its mouth? And it was, it was a very kind of like rogue question to be landed into Oxford with. And we were thinking, we were like, where does one even begin? But it shows that it's a deeply epistemological question about the nature of knowledge and, what constitutes knowing something. And then sort of a lot of different things in it that you kind of would study yourselves. But I think it's about the application of the things you would learn in those books to context like this, which requires a serious level of critical thinking from you. And I think a person who doesn't have that ability to think critically and who's always learned in a particular structured way where they learn a certain content and employs that, I think without critical thinking, students frankly could not survive in Oxford and could not thrive in Oxford. So I think speaking to what Seb was talking about earlier as well in regards to critical thinking, it's a very core skills for us. And, you have to use it continuously throughout your time at university.
I do have one follow-up question for you, Numair. But don't you think that AI is now taking over that critical thinking aspect, the writing aspect, or even the research aspect? So how is Oxford or even Cambridge adapting to this reality? Because it is right there.
So, yeah, I think this is a question that's on everyone's lips at the moment. A few things I would say is, first of all, it's very subject dependent, and different subjects are going to be approaching this in different ways. So I think Ahmed gives a good example of an Oxford question. I remember I got this question as well when I did the same course as Ahmed. Does a dog know that it has a bone in its mouth? This is not the sort of question that you're going to be able to give a good answer to from AI in its current state. In order to really get to grips with that question, as Ahmed says, you don't have to just read the readings, you have to think about them in a really intelligent way, as Ahmed was describing, critical thinking. So Oxford is AI insulated, the Oxford tutorial system AI insulated from that perspective. Another way that it is insulated against the attack from AI is the one-on-one or two-on-one tutorials. As far as the technology goes that we currently have, you can't bring your AI into a discussion in person with the tutor. So you're going to be found out if you have cheated or cut corners with AI. The other thing is that Oxford isn't teaching you so much more than other universities, although it is. But the unique thing about Oxford isn't that you know more things at the end of it, no more facts. The unique thing is you're able to think about those facts in a very clever, serious, thoughtful, critical way.
Yeah.
And developing those critical thinking skills, broader abstract reasoning skills, is something that you can't, look up. That's something that AI is not really, you can't fake that, So on the other hand, AI is going to be really useful for searching through books, and I use it in my research. And I would urge students not to completely shun it, but don't use it for generative purposes. Don't use it to write things. First of all, I think in its current state, it writes in quite a boring way. I think you can write in a much more interesting way than AI that gives it a personal touch, because that's because your tutors are going to be tutoring you. They're not going to be tutoring an AI. But I mean, it's such a vast topic, so I'm not sure we're going to be able to touch on everything now. I mean, Ahmed probably has some more thoughts about this.
Yeah, no, I think you covered it very well, to be honest. As in regards to that question, especially, is that, there is not an easy way to circumvent this process, because once you write the essay, then you have a tutorial followed by that. And in that tutorial, the whole purpose is what you wrote, what you produced academically, that essay. The tutor doesn't ask you about what did you learn, what new topics, etc. The tutor will challenge you on what you have written. So if you presented a few arguments in that essay, the tutor is there. The whole purpose of the tutorial is to challenge you and push you to think further and to think deeper into why you made this particular argument, or why you thought about this topic in a particular way, or why do you, even in my interview, for example, I still remember to this day, one of the interviews that I was doing for Oxford, I was asked not a question about, whether let's say, the problem of induction, but the tutor held the keys in his hand and dropped them without speaking to me. And then he picks them up and drops them again. And he asks me, he says, why do you think these keys will drop the third time? And it's like, we kids will just run to a quick idea of gravitational forces and X and Y and Z. And they first want you to really think about how you think about this thing that he just did and what it prompts you to think in those areas. But also, once you present an argument, when you say that, my thoughts are that it's based on science and gravitational forces, they will then push you and say, okay, but the entirety of, let's say, scientific understanding of X, Y, Z is built on an inductive understanding of the world. And thus not quite a certainty. And the whole thing was about the problem of induction. But the idea is that they would encourage you to get into more depth and then challenge what you say to get you to go further into more depth into that, rather than holding your hand and walking you into it. And in the process, it's enjoyable for them as well, because they learn things also at times from their students when they come up with a very innovative approach to that particular idea. So yeah, that's my thought on it. I think it's a very AI insulated in that sense, this whole process that they've developed.
Yeah. So based on the discussion so far, the key takeaways are that you have got to be genuine, you have to be knowledgeable, you need to have a love for reading, and you need to have critical thinking in you to succeed at Oxford. But would you say that there are certain personality types who, despite having very good grades and despite having some of these attributes, might not feel happy at Oxford or might not be successful?
I think it's obviously an important question, because you're never going to succeed if you don't enjoy the environment that you're living and working in, because Oxford is not an insignificant portion of your life. Yeah. I think in terms of personality types, it's important to have a mind that finds everything or anything interesting. If you're someone who is not that doesn't go to a museum and think, oh, I want to go home and find out more about that, do some research on my own, or whatever, Oxford might not be the place for you. The other thing, as Ahmed alluded to, is you're going to be challenged all the time. If you're someone who doesn't like your ideas being challenged, then you'll struggle with the Oxford system. You might do very well at other universities. Yeah. But if you don't like your ideas being challenged, then Oxford will be difficult. I think those are probably the two things. I mean, the other thing is you've got to be able to work hard. It's not easy. You've got to be willing to sort of put the hours in. But I think a lot of people are, and all these things are interconnected, because you're going to be willing to put the hours in if you're interested in the subject, and if you're interested, you'll put the hours in. So I think those roughly cover it.
Okay, Sebastian, thank you very much for all the insights. One last question, and an interesting one. So looking back, what is one thing you wish you had done earlier in your own preparation, and what was the single biggest advantage you had over other applicants?
Yeah, so I do have a couple of thoughts about this. One of the key things is I never really thought about it this way, but in the interview and throughout the whole process, the person judging you is the person that, if you're successful, will be teaching you for the next 3 or 4 years of your life and their life. You've really got to portray yourself as someone that they want to teach. Because, you know, they're human beings too, and they really, and tutors generally really enjoy teaching people that they enjoy teaching, and really don't enjoy people that they don't enjoy teaching. Now, that seems sort of obvious. What does that mean? It means if you're interested in the subject, coming with good ideas and are willing to learn and adapt, then that is going to make it an enjoyable situation for everybody. If you're not, then it's going to make it a rather long, drawn out, and ultimately unpleasant experience for both parties. So, how does that work for the application process? You want to be portraying yourself as someone that they will want to teach. So you really want to consider that you're not trying to impress some algorithm or anonymous marker like you are in your sort of exams, your sort of high school exams or whatever. It's a different process. You want to be sort of impressing and making an impression upon an individual. So one clever thing to do is do a bit of research about who it might be that's going to be interviewing you or reading your application. And that's not too difficult. You can look up what college you're applying for and research what their interests are. But don't fake it. Don't just say their interests are yours. But that's one thing to consider. I think the other thing to consider, and it's really hard to, and it's something I've touched on, I really thought that I had so much knowledge by the time of my application test and at the time of my interview. I really wanted to get all this knowledge off my chest and prove to them how much I knew. Now, they're going to be interviewing people who know a lot of stuff. I don't think I got in because I knew more stuff. I think I got in and did well at Oxford because I was really willing to learn more and more things and change my ideas and think up new and innovative ways of approaching problems and discussing them and defending my ideas. And that was why I got in, because I proved that I was willing to be agile intellectually. It wasn't because I knew more dates of ancient battles or the details of the problem of induction or whatever. So I think those are the things that I think you should be thinking about in the run-up to your developing your application.
Thank you so much, Sebastian and Talal. The session has been very insightful, and I'm sure it will help so many students planning to get into Oxford and Cambridge for their undergrad and also for their masters. Seb, thank you for your time. And
thank you very much. This has been very enjoyable.
Anybody who wants any extra information, please reach out to us, and we'd be happy to contact Seb again. Thank you.
Brilliant.
Thank you, Seb. Take care.
Thank you very much to you both.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Have a good day.